Welcome to the live stream, my friends. As you can hear, people going crazy. We have a very special event for you today. We are going to be joined momentarily by legendary DJ and producer Steve Aoki, and we're going to be talking about his brand new album, Neon Future 3, which has some extraordinary songs. We're going to dive into the collaborations. So without further ado, please help me in welcoming the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Aoki. What is up, dude? Welcome.
That's a big day.
It is a big day, man, and this album is big as hell.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those crazy. It's like one of the craziest days, of my life. I mean, a lot of my hard work, time, my heart, my emotions. For a long time, it's just like never ending. Like since Neon Future 2 is 2015. We're at the end of 2018, so it's over 3 years, and it's crazy that these songs that were locked, kind of locked in a vault, are now available for everybody. It's a really like a therapeutic, cathartic relief, feeling of just release and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited for people to hear it. So walk us through how this all came together. Start us from the concept of the whole notion of Neon Future and up through today.
So Neon Future is basically my fascination, obsession with science and future tech and where we're going in technology. And we both share that. We're both techno-future optimists. I mean, that's how we got together. So the world, I want to introduce you to Tom Bilyeu, who's Impact Theory, and he's publishing the Neon Future comic, and we bonded over the idea of looking towards the future in an optimist way. So I'm a comic book kid. That's where it all started. If you want to really bring it back, I'm a comic book kid that got really excited about sci-fi as I got older and went from sci-fi into science fact. And the books that really spoke to me were books that had a science fiction idea that was like, okay, here are things that can actually happen in our lifetime or happened in our lifetime that were these impossible scenarios, or scenarios that you were just like, no way this can happen. It only happens in our imagination through science fiction, or how we look at in those movies and comic books and so forth. And I was just, flipping through the pages of Ray Kurzweil, Singularity is Near, and I started to see that there are so many things that involve technology where we can enhance our lives. We could bring our potential to a limitless place. And we could really, really not just be boxed in by drawing things out, but really, really make things into reality. And then when I was coming up with this album concept, I already made a song called Singularity, cameoed Ray Kurzweil in the video. And with an album concept, you have to think of something grandiose, something big, something larger than the musical project. And my last album was Wonderland. I produced the entire album, or the majority of the album on my street. It was called Wonderland. So I'm thinking, what is a concept that really that I'm obsessed with? And it was future science. So I had to come up with a term that's fun, engaging, that has a relationship to my world. Neon is our world. EDM is neon. EDM is colorful, right? And I want to think about a future that's colorful, that's neon, that's bright, that's positive. So Neon Future is what birthed out of that. So that was the kind of the birthing of the term Neon Future. And then with that term came ideas to think outside the box. Okay, first of all, Neon Future from 1, 2, and now 3 has always been a collaborative effort. It's not just Steve Aoki, it's Steve Aoki and not just friends, but friends from so many genres. I'm a rock kid at heart. That's where I started. So, of course, reaching out to Linkin Park earlier on, to Fall Out Boy, to bands that I grew up wanting to work with or dreamed to be in the studio with. Now I had the possibility and was doing songs with them. And then now with Neon Future 3, it's like it's not just about genres. It's about languages. It's about cultures. It's about reaching across the world and collaborating with all kinds of people. And actually on the album, Neon Future 3, we have an artist from Kosovo. We have artists from Croatia. We have Daddy Yankee and Elvis Crespo playing skills representing the Latin sound. BTS that represent the K-pop sound. And then we have Lady Antebellum representing country, and Blink-182 and Jimmy Eat World representing more of the punk pop, more of the rock sound. And I love that this album has a diversity. And also, because of my fascination with science, Neon Future, we have to think outside the box. Who do I really want to collaborate with? Who do I want to get in the studio with? Who do I want to melt minds with? Scientists, authors, people that inspire me, outside of music. So that's why I reached out to Ray Kurzweil to be on the album, J.J. Abrams to be on Neon Future 2, and now Neon Future 3, Bill Nye. So it really feels like this freedom. This process has been this creative freedom to be like, I'm not boxed. Yes, I'm a producer, but I don't want to be stuck with a particular, okay, he's only this. I want to really just spread my wings and try all kinds of things.
And you've done an insanely good job of that on this album. You've done that for really the whole album series. But even when you take each individual album, you can feel a progression, you can feel a change, you can feel yourself going into new spaces. Talk to me about that. Like, how did you conceive of Neon Future 3 sonically? Like, how did you want this one to be different than the other two?
That's exactly the point. With all the albums, there are literally timestamps of where my mind's at, my inspiration's at, my references are at, and my production caliber. I look back at my previous albums on my production techniques or what I thought was really, really dope back then, whatever it was. And it just sounds old, like, oh my God, I don't want to hear that again. I think we all do that as we evolve and grow. But what I've learned is that you accept. That's what excited me. That's what my sound was back in 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014, 15, and now here we are in 2018. And since this project was a project that started 3 years ago, I had to go back and update these songs, and that it's hard to do that. It's like you don't want to change too much, and I think that's like one of the great things about doing an album versus just putting out a single, is that when you have an album, you really think about the songs differently. You don't think about, I need to just put this out and have it be part of what the cultural wave is that everyone's riding on. It's more like, if I have a melody, or if there's a melody in the song, if there's something that, like the backbone of the song, that I could go back and listen to 6 months later or a year later, and it still sounds fresh, then I know I have something special. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm lucky because I get to DJ and play in front of people, and it's the songs that are timeless that really are the reason why I'm on that stage. When I made the remix for Pursuit of Happiness, it was almost 10 years ago, and it still sounds so lit, so fresh, and people jump around like it's like a brand new song. So it's like you aim, like I aim to try to make as many of those songs that I can. And with an album, it's that fine wine process. Like, if it's not fine wine, if it's not sitting and like speaking to you and pulling at you the way it should 6 months later, then it's time to retire the song or come up with a brand new idea around the main melody that works.
I love that. All right, really fast. We have an amazing opportunity. We put together a video of some of the incredible collaborators that you had on this album, and they all have something that they want to say to you. So if we could roll that.
Hey, what's up? This is Mark Hoppus. Just wanted to say congratulations, Steve, on the release of Neon Future 3. So stoked that Blink-182 is part of this, and wish you nothing but continued success.
Yo, Steve, this is Twig. We are calling to congratulate you on your new album, Neon Future 3. We are super proud and excited to be part of your album. It's been an amazing experience working with you and your team of people, and we really, really hope to see you guys soon somewhere around the world. Peace. Peace.
Steve Aoki, man, what's up? Yachty here. Got the braids tucked in, but I want to congratulate you on your new album, bro. It's rocking, going crazy. New song on BTS is insane. So big shouts out from your little bro, man. Keep rocking, man, every year.
What's up, Steve? It's Bully Songs. I just wanted to say a huge congratulations on your new album, Neon Future 3. Proud to be part of the process with you. I loved working on what we started together. And yeah, I'll see you soon, bro. Peace.
Neon Future 3 is out now. Thanks for having me on this project, Steve. Everyone go check it out. Be somebody. Yes, and everything else. Duh.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We are Playing Skills.
Yeah.
I want to salute my brother, Steve Aoki, Neon Future 3, crazy, hot. You know, we had the pleasure of working on Azuquita with Steve Aoki, of course, Daddy Yankee, and that was Crespo. Now you can check the whole album out. Download that, stream it, buy it, get it all, man. Steve Aoki, much love, my brother. Neon Future 3, Playing Skills.
Hey Steve, congratulations on the release of your new album. We're very excited to be a part of this project. Thanks for having us, and congrats.
Steve, congratulations on the release of Neon Future 3. I'm so excited for you. I'm so proud to have been part of this project, and I really can't wait to hear your album.
Congrats, Steve Aoki, on your new album, Neon Future 3. Seriously, congratulations. I fucking love you. This album is going to be awesome. I'm so excited for everybody to hear how much hard work you put into it. And thank you so much for having me on it, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Seriously, I'm so excited to be on this album with you. I'll see you very soon when we do our music video. Ooh. Bye-bye for now.
All right, man, and that's just some of the collaborators that you had on this, and it's crazy how diverse they are. And I was talking to your manager, Matt, last night about how you pull this off, and he said that it's really you and the way that you reach out to people constantly, the way that you're always looking for movements in music and things you want to be a part of. So walk us through the lead song going right now, your collaboration with BTS. How did that come together? How'd you pull that off? And how you feel about the song?
Yeah, big shout out to the BTS Army for just being so awesome and helping push this song to the place that it is and the position that it is in the world, because it's a global song. And BTS, I mean, they're phenomena. I say that in every interview. They're phenomena. They're one of those entities, those people that come through life. There's only a few of them that come through. They're the unicorns. They're like 7 unicorns, just like hopping along the world, just blessing everyone with their talent and their magic. And they have fairy wings, and they're floating and just dropping fairy dust on everyone. They're just amazing people. They just, like when people think about them, when they hear their music, when they see them, you just smile, you get happy. And it's like, they're so genuine. And I think one of the questions people ask, like, why BTS? Like, there's so many other groups that are doing something really great. They're just like genuine people. Like, when you first meet them, when I first met them, just awesome, happy dudes, and very human. It's like, there's no wall. It's like, let's just, like, we're kicking each other. They're like started kicking me, and I was like, am I supposed to kick them? We're like, he's like, I love your hoodie. I'm like, I love your jacket. He's like, here's my hoodie. It's like, here's your jacket. Me and RM, we're like trading clothes. I never trade clothes with other people. It's like, we did the Aoki jump. I mean, just fun guys. I remember we put up some music up, and I was playing them some new music I was working on, and they were all just jam and dancing, and I mean, the vibe was good. And I think, the one thread through a lot of these collaborations is the vibe has to be unique and really positive. It's like we have to have a human connection, and that's very important to me. So with BTS, we've had since the very beginning, we had a really amazing human connection, which stemmed into the Mic Drop remix. And it was almost like, what's going to happen with this? It's almost like a experiment. Let's see what happens with this remix. And it blew all of our minds, like how well it was received. And they were working on the Love Yourself album. And then they asked me to produce a song for the album. So I worked on The Truth Untold, which is a complete, the opposite of the Mic Drop. Mic Drop's more turn up. It's more like, just dance and get crazy. And The Truth Untold's more of a ballad to really showcase, that kind of vulnerability of who they are and their voices. and then Wasted on Me being their first English language song. It was just a natural, fluid process. Like we've always had a very kind of carrying the momentum of working together. That natural kind of process was like, all right, the next song, I have a song, and I think it's another thing about producers is that once you know a particular artist and how you work with them, you should also have a good gauge of what they like. You know, like, give you an example. If you're in the studio with a brand new artist and you're like, okay, I have these amazing beats, amazing songs I want to play you, and you get through like 5 or 6 and you see them like dulling out, then by the time they hear the 7th or 8th song, they might not have that like energy from the beginning. So my goal is try to get them on the 1st to 3rd or 4th song. Because if I get that energy, it's what I really want. So I think a great producer can try to like look into the souls. You know, it's like such a psychology game. Like I want to, like I do my research on you. I want to know what I think you like, and if I can get there quickly, then we're gonna really do something creative, and you know we're gonna have the best output. So with BTS, we're already on that flow with Wasted on Me, and I sent them the bones of what Wasted on Me was, and they loved it, and they went in the studio, sent it back to me, and you know the rest is history.
It's really pretty incredible talking about that human connection. I think that's something that's really unique in your music, and one of the things that I find so interesting in that you can bring somebody like a Lady Antebellum together with a BTS or a Mike Posner, and yet the album still feels cohesive. And I want to ask about Mike Posner. So Mike has obviously gone in a direction that is way acoustic, deeply emotional, and yet you guys were able to collaborate on something that brought his sort of unique vibe and position with what you're doing. What was it like collaborating with him?
Yeah, he really sings from the heart. He's a heartfelt guy. He gives you big, warm bear hugs. You know, that's the kind of guy. He has a really, really amazing smile. Just a very kind person. And we made the song pre-beard. I think he has a big beard now, right? So like this was in his pre-beard era, and he was kind of like at that time he was writing a lot of dark songs, and this song, or the idea of what this song became, was from that session, from that period of time, and I mean, I was just like, you know, there's like you hear a bunch of different songs, like they're all really good, but there's something about that one that stood out. And that one, I mean, we were working on that for at least over a year ago. So to me, that one's really special because sometimes I'll be working on a song for 4, 6, 8 months, and we're talking about this whole idea of fine wine, and I'm like, nah, I just can't. I just like I'm not feeling the same energy that I did back then. But with that song, every time I heard his voice, every time I heard his lyrics, it really pulls at you, and you have to really to commit to these songs, you have to make sure they're pulling on you still. They're pulling on your heart. They're pulling on your being. And that's very, very important for me to make sure if they don't pull on me before I give it to the world, they're not going to pull on them, right? So Mike is like a very soulful person. So, I mean, he's got songs, so many songs inside of him, so many stories to tell. And he's a great storyteller too. So I'm proud of that one as well.
Yeah, it was amazing collaboration. Now, taking a tack in the opposite direction, what you did with Blink-182 was really pretty interesting, and I felt like I was seeing a different side of them. I felt like I was interacting with Blink-182 through the lens of Steve Aoki, which was really a cool experience. How did that come together, and what was that like?
I was in the studio with them at John Feldman's studio, and that's when kind of like the once again the bones of the song is like the rock side of the song was, and they played me a bunch of different songs, and I was like, this is the one I want to work on, and I brought it back to my studio and I started chopping it up, and it was at that point on it was sending back and forth, but I wanted to make sure that for all the Blink fans out there, and because they all have a massive fan base, and I am also a mega fan. I want to make sure that the essence of Blink is in there, not just the vocals. So Travis's drums, the bass, the guitar, And I love this song because there's so much vocal interplay between Matt and Mark, and you get to really hear them go back and forth. And it's like true to that emo side of Blink-182. You know, it's very emo, and lyrically it's Blink. The song title's Blink. You know, it's got Blink like trademarks all over the song. And the drop, I wanted to make sure that like the Aoki sound was in there too, making a really cool electronic melodic drop, and making sure that the synths were in there throughout. So that was one of those collabs I was also very excited about because of this, you know, blending between the rock and electronic space, which can be very difficult.
It was also cool the way with the Jimmy Eat World, Jim Adkins collab, that you're bringing in this pop punk feel, but somehow really modernizing it and making it ultra vital and fresh. Was that somebody you wanted to reach back into that sort of bag of tricks and bring that forward, or how did that one come to be?
So that one was also in John Feldman's studio when it started. So it was an interesting lineup. Callum Hood was singing the song, playing bass as well. Travis was on drums. He was playing drums. And in the writer's room, it was John, it was Mark Hoppus, and me, and Travis was coming in, and Callum was there. So we're all kind of just piecemealing the song and getting it to that place. And then once we got it there, I brought it back to my studio and started chopping it up as I do, you know, making it a collaboration. And then we all agreed that we wanted to get Jimmy Eat World on there. And for me, it's actually a special story because, you know, 20 years ago, I was in my college co-op, and I was putting on shows in this little town called Isla Vista. It's part of Santa Barbara. I went to school at UCSB, and I was just putting on tons and tons of shows. That was like my main thing. I was going to school and housing shows, but the shows were in my kitchen and later on in my living room. No joke. I mean, literally, like the stoves are cooking some food, the refrigerator's right there, and Jim Atkins is singing in front of the refrigerator with a guitar. Like, it was that small. And the dining room, the dining table, we had to move to the side so we could let in 25, 30 people into the room, like half the people that are actually here right now. And that was a successful show, you know. So, and Jimmy Eat World played in my kitchen. It's just crazy to think about. And then later on, they came back, and they played in, like, I think the Pickle Patch, or, you know, like, that was the name that we called. We called our living room the Pickle Patch, for I don't know what reason, but anyways, it was very famous for what it was to our 30 odd people that would come through, maybe 50. And I mean, we put on shows, and that's what we did. So I was a fan back then. I was a friend of theirs back in the day. Never did I ever think I would ever work with them musically in any capacity. And, you know, 20 years later, here we are. I'm like, I call up Jim, like, hey, it's Steve Aoki. I don't know if you remember me, but you played in my living room in front of my refrigerator. He was like, who? And he hung up. No, I'm just kidding. No, but he's like, what? You know, he didn't put the two and two together. He's like, oh, you're the DJ. No, I'm the guy that put on the show for you in Santa Barbara when you first started out, like, you know, Jimmy Eat World. And it was a trip, and trip down memory lane. So it was so cool to have him on the album that way, too.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that I think really makes your music so infectious is you're clearly a fan. You've not gotten cynical. There's no, like, you behind the scenes is as vibrant and fun and seem to be loving what you're doing as you are when you're on camera, which I think is pretty extraordinary. I think really shows up in this album, which was a lot of fun. And some of that playfulness, I'll say, I was shocked to see that you did a collaboration with Lady Antebellum, which I think is your first foray into country music.
Absolutely, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I love obviously working outside my space and working in different genres. I've always wanted to work with a country artist, but the same has to go on their side too. They have to want to work with me. So it was one of those mutual kind of like, I'm gonna put this into the universe and put this out, and hopefully someone from their side will grab my hand. And Lady Antebellum heard about it. They're like, oh yeah, Steve Aoki. All right, cool, let's do something. I'm like, they want to work with me. I was like shocked, surprised, and really excited. And they were awesome. They started on an idea, a song, and they sent that over to me, and that's when we started working on the music side. And that was a collaboration. Like, in all, it took about 1.5 years to finish the song. I mean, it was a lot of back and forth. They did retakes of their song, tracked it again, and I kept on changing the music. I kept on updating the music because I wanted to make the first country electronic collaboration special, you know. And I love the song. I absolutely love the song.
Yeah, I'll say there's a lot of great tracks on the album. We're actually, in a little bit, going to be hearing one of them live, but that one is one of my favorites as well. I think right now we're going to be taking some questions from the audience and people in the live stream. If you have questions, be paying attention. Think about what those might be. So if we want our first person to step to the mic, come on up. Let's see what you have to say.
Hi, Steve.
Hey.
Army and 305 in the house.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is actually related to your comic, Neon Future. So I was wondering, like, how did that collaboration come about, and how involved were you in the creation of, like, the characters and also the story elements?
Okay, so that's our comic, and Tom's a big role of it. It first came about because Tom and I met on his show on Quest.
Yeah, formerly Inside Quest, now Impact Theory.
Right. So, and it was honestly my favorite interview I've ever done. So we were just like instantaneously bonded, and we really bonded over this, the neon future concept of like looking into the future, where we're going, like, AI augmenting our bodies, that kind of stuff. And then we just took that conversation further and further, and we're like, we need to make a comic. We need to like really illustrate this, because for me, Neon Future's always been a musical way to let people know about how I feel. I'm like, okay, I'm going to collaborate with scientists, but it really needs the visual. It really needs a story. And we're both comic book junkies, and we both grew up on comics. And Tom really put the team together to really build out the stories. I mean, Tom, actually, you could talk about this.
So this really started when I was researching him to do the interview, and I realized this crazy man would like to actually be cryogenically frozen when he dies for real. And I was like, whoa. Like, for real, when you die, you're going to be put basically on ice. And he was like, yeah, that's my insurance plan. And I thought, all right, that's my kind of guy. Like, somebody who literally is not prepared to even succumb to death. And I have a fascination with trying to live forever as well. And I just thought, all right, this is really interesting. And to come at the future from an optimistic place, which not a lot of people do. And so we wanted to start our world in a dystopian future and show you how you get out. And that was really important to Steve. And so we had these brainstorming sessions where it all started around Kita Sovi, which was a character that he actually came up with when you were how old?
When I was a teenager, when I was like 16. So Kita Savi is an anagram of Steve Aoki.
Boom, mic drop.
Yeah. So we're trying to come up with this amazing character that kind of, it's not the main character, but he's kind of like runs through the theme of the storyline, and it can't be Steve Aoki, it just can't. It needs to be like a futurist, like, something that I want to aspire to become. So, Kita Savi.
And looking at what he's doing, obviously collaborated with Bruce Lee for the Dim Mak collection for a reason. And if you know Bruce Lee, there's the obsession with the Tao. And one of the most traditional Taoist symbols is the yin yang. And the yin yang is basically duality, but each with a piece of the other inside of it. So in the comic, we actually reference that. So Kita Sovi is actually two different characters. One who's very peaceful, and I'll liken to Nelson Mandela, and he's trying to find the third way. So rather than going from being oppressed to being the oppressor, he's trying to find that third way. But when he appears in this digital world that he's created, which we call the Neon Garden, he appears as a warrior. And his whole thing is that you have to be ready for violence at all times and hope that you can avoid using it. And so that image right there is the duality of the character. You have the more monk-like Kita Sovi, and then you have the warrior of the samurai. And so it was like crawling inside Steve's mind and really understanding like how he comes at the world and finding a way to tell a real story. It's not a vanity project. Remember, it was his idea not to be the main character. So he wanted to have Kita Sovi be a more background character so that we could really tell a powerful and engaging story that hopefully people walk away taking not only entertainment, but something really powerful.
That was beautiful.
Hi, my name's Shonda. I'm a big fan and also Army, obviously. And I want to first thank you for all the music you've been doing. It's amazing. And the collabs have been really legendary.
Thank you.
So my question is, Neon Future is the name of your albums and also the name of the comic, which I love very much. I was wondering, do you imagine this Neon Future being an expanded universe? And if so, what kind of media would you like to explore in terms of further developing this Neon Future?
There's no doubt the Neon Future needs to be developed more because the idea is incredible, and this is a start to really go from comic book to from print to film and television. Right. You know, like there's a story that needs to be told in that media. So we're absolutely going that route for sure.
Yeah, we're deeply passionate about the story itself, and and I'll give Steve all the credit in the world for this. Just from the jump, said this has to be a story that's relevant. Yes, it has to entertain, but there needs to be something there. So it's a story set 30 years in the future in a world where advanced technology has been outlawed. And if you look at every story set in the future, it's always man versus machine. But if you look at the imagery around Neon Future from the jump, it's always been Steve imagining himself as a cyborg, which is this coming together of technology and humanity and living in harmony. And if you look at the world we're living in right now today, where some of the brightest minds on the planet, including Elon Musk, are looking at actual brain-computer interfaces. Like they are working right now to make that a reality. And Elon Musk said that in about 4 or 5 months, he's going to be making an announcement and that people are going to be shocked at how far along we already are. And so this story really deals with things we're actually going through now. So it's a very relevant story. It's set in a time of turmoil. We wanted to set it in a world, even though it's 30 years in the future in America, it feels a little bit too much like Germany in the 30s, where it's like you can feel the world's not going in a happy place. And our division is between people with technology integrated into their bodies and people without, and the people without trying to oppress the people with. And somewhat a reaction to people's technophobia that's actually coming in real life, right? Because as AI and robotics take jobs, like this, it's going to get real. And so being able to deal with that kind of stuff in a super entertaining way, that's credit to Steve and having a vision. And when you see him dealing with this sonically and now in story format, there's just some artists that are able to transcend the art itself. And Steve is one of those guys.
All right, thank you so much. I can't wait to see where else you take Neon Future.
Thank you.
All right.
What's up, Steve?
How you doing?
Big fan.
Thank you.
Also being a fan of Linkin Park, I wanted to know what it was like working with the band in Chester and how you're feeling after what had happened.
I mean, Chester was the greatest singer of our time. You know, and being the greatest singer of our time, he was the most humble, down-to-earth, hardworking guy. Like just a really kind, gentle person. And it's insane. You watch their videos, you see them live, and he's belting out, and he's singing so high, and when he sings, you feel it so deep. And I think that's like the thing about Linkin Park is when he screams and he sings, and he's talking about depression, he's talking about dark thoughts like that we all go through. I mean, like that's the effect. It's like the human condition. He's talking about things we all deal with in the most real way possible. You know, it breaks my heart like talking about it because it's so sad when you see someone phenomenal like that gone, you know, and so young and so much more to give to the world. And in the studio, I mean, he was just such a gentle guy. He was very humble and And he was always like, okay, I can get this part. I actually have an idea. I want to throw this in there. You know, I mean, it goes to show, like, you think about bands, like, and I was telling this to Mike, I'm like, you guys been around for decades. You know, like, bands don't last that long. They get really popular, and then, like, something happens, they break up. For whatever reason, it's like, you know, sometimes you could boil it down to egos. I think most of the time you could boil it down to egos. These guys had no egos. Linkin Park had no egos. They went in, they made music together as a team. They put on shows as a team. They are by far one of the most inspirational group of people I know in my life. And I look up to Mike. I look up to the rest of the band. I love Chester, and I still look up to Chester. And I'm so happy that I had that kind of relationship with him in the studio, and like just those times. I really embraced those times. And you know, I remixed One More Light, and it like gives me a way to play it out and, you know, bring his name out once again at my shows to all the, you know, all the people out there singing along to One More Light. So that's also a great feeling. But I can keep going on and on. But Chester was one of a kind.
All right, so we actually have some online questions. So I want to ask, what are you inspired by? And this comes from Baranova Tanya.
Baranova Tanya is online? Yeah. What am I inspired by? Well, I think one thing that you could take away is treat your mind, treat your senses seriously. Follow your instincts, because, you know, as a producer, I'm like always listening to weird. I'm like listening to something that's interesting, that's weird, that's like even like a sound that of someone stepping on this wood. I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. Can I sample that? Or you know, or anything that kind of makes you think about something. Take a picture of it. You know, like when I started getting into, you know, fashion design, I would just take pictures of people walking down the street that I liked their clothes. I would even take a picture of like this blue next to this black. I'm like, okay, that actually could be a cool pattern. You have to use your mind, because at the end of the day, what you create is reflections of what you're inspired by. So I'm inspired by many things, as we all are. We're not. Just because I'm a musician or producer doesn't mean I only listen. I only use my ears. You know, I use my eyes. I use my taste. I use, you know, the energy I have with people around me. And I always say this. I am the luckiest guy in the world, because I have, you know, I can travel the world, and I get to see so much. So, I mean, if I travel to all these places and not have a takeaway from them, I have something to like build and kind of like recreate in my own way through my lens, I'm not doing it justice. So I kind of like had this like renewed sense of interest and passion when I was traveling so far and fast, and I was like, where was I? What happened? Did I actually go to this country before? And I was like, I was doing 300 shows a year at one point, and I'm like, I don't even know what happened last week, last month. Like, it just was a blur. So that was, early on 2010-ish. And since then, I slowed down to about 230 shows a year. So it's a great number for me. And, and I'm like always trying to just trust my senses and follow like why I like something, and it could manifest itself in different ways. It can even manifest itself by looking at colors into how you can create sound in a certain way by like feeling something. So everything inspires me.
Love that. All right, from Luis Blythe. Is this going to be the last Neon Future album?
You know what? It was, but I'm having too much fun with this. A similar story. you know, there was a period of time when I decided, like, you know, I'm not going to cake anyone anymore in my shows. And I made a statement. I was like, hey, everyone, the cake was fun. Hope you all had fun with cake all over your face, but I ain't going to do it anymore. And then I did one show with no cakes, and there's like, I don't know, like 50 or 60 signs up, and everyone's like chanting, cake me, cake me. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, I'm here to give. Like, you know, I don't want to be stingy. I mean, I can't eat all these cakes by myself. So, you know, and then like, I was like, I can't like not give what the people what they want. I got to give them what they want. They want cake right in their face.
Let them eat cake, Steve.
let them eat cake. So, I mean, with Neon Future, you know, I was like, okay, 3 is a great number. You know, I'm going to end it on 3, but, you know, there is, like right now, there's no end of Neon Future. So I'll put it that way.
All right, no end in sight. Well, do we have time for more questions, or do we? All right, looks like we do. Okay, so here we go. This is actually interesting to me, and this comes from Rebecca Dancing. How do you feel about having your gear in the Smithsonian?
Yeah, that's crazy, because you think of the Smithsonian, you think of like, you know, a rifle from the Civil War. You know, you think of like the slippers from Wizard of Oz or something. You know, I mean, I remember getting the call, and I'm like, nah, this is a joke. You're just punking me. This is like, that's a stupid punk though. Like, I mean, I just like, no way. But yeah, I was floored, and I still can't believe I'm in the Smithsonian. Actually, walking through the archives of the Smithsonian, seeing what they have there, that's when it all like really hit me. You know, seeing like you know, Muhammad Ali's shorts in that famous fight where he's standing over, you know what I'm saying? That fight, he's just like, oh, you know, and then the guy's on the floor, like he just died. And Shaun White's like winning gold medal snowboard, and then to like old banjos from thousands of years ago. You know, it just went on and on, obviously. And yeah, it's such a trip. But I think the trippiest now, when I think about it, is I saw the picture where they have my DJ equipment and this photo, and it has this little plaque, and the plaque says something like, you know, I don't know verbatim, but it was something to the effect of, in the 2010s, there was a thing called EDM, you know? So like the way it felt like it read to me was almost like, whoa, this is gonna be like 50 years later, someone's gonna go, in 2010, there was this like DJs were playing on stages and people would watch them. That's so weird and great, you know. I was like, wow, that's cool. I'm like a part of the history. I'm like, and there's this long-haired, weird Asian DJ that was part of this EDM thing that people wanted to go see. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's like crazy and dope, you know, looking like in the future.